So welcome back to Chaos Farm again. Today we're going to be doing a little bit about animals. So as you can see, we've got Gidget here. With all the rain that we've had, the yard is very muddy at the moment. And these guys are in for specific reasons, which I will talk about a little bit more in a minute. And each one of them has a very different reason for being in. So we'll come on to that in a minute. But what we're going to be doing is teaching you a little bit about the grooming kit. So this is a little bit dirty, but this is Oscar's grooming kit, and we're going to show you what each of the brushes are, how to use them. Hopefully in a minute you might see little Tilly and Fergie coming in. So typical Fergie doesn't want to be caught, and he likes to walk around. So we've got Gidget here on the gate that's looking in, wants to have a bit of attention. We've got Fergie, who's one of the little ones just back behind. I don't know if you can see because the Gidget's in the way. So Fergie is this little one here, the little brown one that's licking. Hey Fergs. And we've got Eric, which is eating on the side, and none of the ponies want to be caught. So that's little Tilly. So Dan is trying to catch little Tilly, and little Tilly is probably the littlest pony that we've got, and Dan is the tallest volunteer, so it's a bit of a mismatch. So what we're going to do is...
First excellent question of the day. Just which way around?
Which way around? Okay, so perfect.
I haven't done this in 6 months.
So what we do is we stand to the horse's side. So ideally you want to be that side of the horse. So the horse is to your right.
Yep.
You put the nose into here.
Yep.
And then that comes over behind the ears, oops, and attaches like that.
So it's, yeah, it is this bit, we were right.
Yeah. And then if you just don't have the rope around your neck, just pop the rope over her neck. So if you stand on the, yeah, you want to be the opposite side. So you want to be Casey's side.
Yes.
Yep. And then the rope goes over little Tilly's neck. That's it. And then that comes in front of her head. So the buckles go at the back. So change that bit. That bit goes underneath her chin. That's it. So where you've got your hand, your right hand, that bit goes on her nose.
So this way on her nose.
Yeah.
But this way around.
Yes, that's it. So her nose goes in there with the bit at the front, the buckle at the front, and the rope at the back. Yep, that's it. Perfect. Exactly. And then that bit goes around behind the top. If it's a bit tight, you might have got it tangled up there somewhere. I think the rope's just got a bit tangled. So what I'll do is I'll just get Oscar a minute, and then we'll hopefully have all of them in together. So I'll help Casey get Eric in first. Not Eric, Fergs. Good. Back up, my love. Goodie. Fergie knows exactly where he's going. Good girl, Gidge. Come on, Tails. So why Tilly doesn't want to come past is because Gidget's in the way. So Fergie's coming on this one here, this closer one, and little Tilly is going straight across where the door is, where her box is. Yep, that one there. So this is really good actually, because you can all see exactly where the learning is. So Fergie, what we'll do is we'll bring Fergs around here. You've done it anyway. What we'll do is we'll just tie him a little bit tighter, because at the minute he's got a bit too much rope. So pull that one.
Yeah.
So the idea is that we're doing a quick release knot, and we always tie onto the string because then it's safer for the horse. So if the horse gets scared or spooked, that's it about there. Then, so spooked is when they get scared and they jump suddenly. So if they're going to jump suddenly, the string will break, opposed to the head collar, which is this kind of pinky purple here, or the lead rope, which is kind of underneath his chin with a buckle. So rather than any of the equipment breaking, it's the string that breaks, and then the horse is safe. So obviously the equipment we can replace, but the horse, if the horse pulls back, they can hurt anything from their ears, right the way through their neck, their back, and their feet. So we've obviously got Fergie's grooming kit here. I'll just get Oscar's grooming kit, and Oscar's actually very nicely by the gate. Hey, Rob. So while Oscar's here, we're going to do an excellent example. So we stand to the side, Oscar puts his nose through, you flick that over the top, and then you do the buckle up. So it's that easy. However, I have been doing it for several years, And I kind of have got that muscle memory, so I've done it so much I can do it in my sleep. So we're going to show you Oscar as well. Hi, mister. Come on, Mr. Man. Just going to put him over there. Oscar's quite happy to wander around. Do you want to come in, Rob? Yeah? So Oscar does like to be on camera. Come here, buddy. And we've got Oscar's grooming kit here. So we're going to take Oscar to the far end of the yard, and I'm going to show you why. Oh, horses for courses. Why Oscar's in. No, it's all right. I think you've got your box there. So to do the quick release knot, we thread the rope through, Husky, through there. We make a cross or an X. So we've got an X. We have a rabbit. Oscar, move your head. And we have a hole. The rabbit goes through the hole and runs away. And then it just pulls tight. Husky, please. So it just pulls tight. And the idea is then if the horse pulls back, the string will break rather than the fence, the equipment or the horse. Or we can just pull it loose. So it's a quick release knot. So cross, a rabbit, a hole, rabbit goes through the hole and runs away. And that's it. Because Oscar likes to play with his ropes, we just thread it through again, just so that he can't kind of pull it. So we have Rob the farrier here. Hello! We're good. So we've got these ponies in. They've both got laminitis or had laminitis. So I'm hoping we can kind of touch base with you in a minute and you can explain a little bit about laminitis. Yeah? So both little Tilly and Fergs have had it. So, and the noise in the background is Fergie playing with his brushes. So I'm going to show you Oscar. So Oscar, because he's one of the older horses, he's been in over the winter for kind of a bit of TLC, just to make sure that he keeps his weight on. He's recently been out, and I'm going to show you, he's been beaten up. So these scratches and marks are all from one of the other horses. So we've got a new horse, Ted, who's actually come, and Oscar's always been the dominant stallion or dominant horse. So within the horse kingdom, you have the hierarchy, just like many kind of different places within the world. You have kind of like the chief, then you have the subordinates, and then you have kind of everyone else, the commoners, if you like. I don't know how you would like to phrase it. But there's like a triangular system. So Oscar's always been the chief, and he's been the chief for goodness knows how long now, haven't you? But he's now 25, and he's lost his chiefdom. So he's always been the one that's beaten everybody else up and basically inflicted these kind of injuries. But now he is the one that is suffering. So this is a lot better than it was last week. So you can see some of them are already dried, some of them are drying, some of them are still a little bit moist. And what they've got on them is, I've actually cleaned them all off. So I've cleaned them with Hibby Scrub. So I'm a veterinary nurse, so I get Hibby Scrub and just have cool boil water, clean them off, make sure there's no kind of muck around them. This one, obviously, I've not cleaned them off this morning. So you can see the actual line here is the cut, and then this is just the dirt and kind of gubbins that comes with it. You can see here, it's just started to bleed, but this is dry, and you can see underneath his skin is white, and he's got a bit of black around where his hair is, and actually that's just, we'll leave that one, poor boy. But they're kind of just a bit mucky in different places, so what we'll do is we'll clean them off today. We'll probably let Rob the farrier do his work with Oscar, but you can see that this is all on one side. His other side doesn't have anything at all, but there's all here, and they're kind of shaped. So you can see that often they are kind of teeth marks, like marks, and they're all fairly much the same kind of distance apart. These ones up here are a little bit nastier. So you can see they're a bit kind of, they've got a bit of claggy stuff on. That's actually green clay. Green clay is a really, really good way to heal and dry up wounds. So rather than them being moist and kind of like bloody and the lymph that we get from our wounds, horses get exactly the same. We've actually put dry clay on just with a blusher brush, and you can see kind of here, there's a little bit greeny, and up here, these kind of 2 points, you can see where the dry clay has been, and it's just a powder. but it just dries them up really nicely, stops any flies being able to get to them, stops them getting nasty. So these two would probably need to just pay attention to, maybe this one here on his flank. But as you can see, he's been pretty beaten and bruised all over, down his legs as well. And the inside of this back leg, he's got a cut, and down here, and he's all kind of still sweaty in different places. So he was basically run around quite a lot, bless him. And he's no longer the boss. Hey, Husky, no longer the boss. But in otherwise, he's actually in quite good condition for Oscar. Being that he's 25, he's quite an angular horse, so he's going to always be a little bit kind of bony and a bit finer, shall we say, in the horse kingdom. We'd say he's a bit finer, because you can see this kind of bit up here. So when he was working, when he was younger, this was actually all muscle, but now he's a bit older, he's retired, and this is just his bone structure. So if you look at his bum, it kind of points up, and this is his actual spine, which is not a good confirmation really. But now he's older. He would actually have muscle that would kind of come out here, but he's older and he's retired, so he's kind of in his dotage now, bless him. So in terms of a retired horse, he actually looks quite good for a 25-year-old. Don't you, mate? He's sort of had enough of camera. So what we're going to do is we're going to come this way, and we're going to talk to Rob, if that's all right. Yeah? So we're just going to keep the camera rolling, because I'm going to stay back out of the way so Rob's got plenty of space. So Oscar's been quite okay, other than being beaten up. He got beaten up last Wednesday, run ragged, so he's been really, really stiff in his back end. Yeah, and he's been very sore, so I'm not sure how he'll pick up his back legs. I've not actually picked them up since...
You can see he's standing quite fine beneath himself now, isn't he?
Yeah. So...
Nice and easy for the old boy.
So Rob has been our farrier for, gosh, how many years now? Quite a few.
Now, isn't it? Yeah,
long time.
I came as an apprentice a long time ago, and then
Just
came back.
carried on really, haven't you? Yeah. So probably we're talking kind of 8-9 years, maybe,
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah.
So Rob is he's trained in effect with some of our horses, and knows our horses inside and out. So we completely trust him, which is a really, really valuable thing to have, actually. And because Rob knows the horse, then he knows what's normal for the horse or what's not normal for the horse. So you've got a bit of an added advantage in some ways, haven't you, Rob?
Yeah, it's nice to build up like a, not just from like a foot point of view, but from like a sort of like behavioural point of view. Like you know the mannerisms of the horses, you know which, how to be with them. Ones that need a bit more sort of like fuss or attention. Ones that don't like fuss and attention.
Yeah.
Ones you might need to just look out for a few more things, not like he's obviously like absolutely sound. You don't need to worry about too much of him.
So when Rob is saying sound, he's not meaning sound as in level with all 4 feet. He's meaning sound as in good mannered, mild temperament, really.
Yeah, just easy going.
Easy going. There we go. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come back to the studio for a minute, because I think we might have a bit of a rain issue in a few minutes. So we're going to come back to the studio, just preempting this. We're going to get the camera covered, and then you'll be right back here with us as soon as. So see you in a minute. So welcome back. We're all sorted now, and hopefully it won't rain. But if it does, we're covered. So back with Rob. So Rob's obviously doing Oscar's second front foot, obviously 2 front feet and 2 back feet. So Rob, can you just explain a little bit what you're actually doing there?
Yeah, so at the minute I'm just picking out all of like the muck and the mud, just making sure there's no stones wedged in anywhere, no cuts, nothing to be concerned about, and then just taking off any real loose bits of sole. Because he's not a horse that's shod, he actually naturally like exfoliates the sole, so he wears the sole down.
Can you just point out the sole, because obviously our viewers don't really know kind of the different parts of the foot really.
So the sole is kind of everything you're seeing now, apart from this section here, which is the frog, and then there's like a thin sort of like 3/4 of an inch thick perimeter. That's the hoof wall, and this is the sole here that kind of fills the rest of the space between the foot. Yeah, and it's like a weight bearing structure. The sole, the wall, and the frog, they're all designed to be able to bear weight, move. But like I say, because he's a barefooted horse, he doesn't wear shoes. He wears his soles down quite well. So I wouldn't take any more off of that, because essentially what it is doing is protecting everything that's inside the foot. So if I took too much off, he'd probably be a bit sore.
So just like if we were going out for the first time on the beach and walked across pebbles, it's kind of your tender on your feet, aren't you?
Yeah, be a bit tender. And what does happen is, it's been a bit wet, so it's a bit difficult to see. If it was dry, you'd be able to see it a bit better. But there's also like a really thin, like a dark line, which runs the same sort of channel as the hoof wall. That's just what we call like the white zone, or the white line. That area tends to callus, a bit like you would get calluses on your hands if you work with your hands, and it kind of acts like a bit of a natural shoe in itself. So I love to leave all of that in. I literally just straighten up the sides of the frogs, don't over trim anything like that. He's got a little bit of heel that just wants leveling off, just because they're rolling a touch. And then I'll put what you call like a bevel on the bottom edge of the hoof wall, and that just stops the hoof wall sort of cracking or forming like a sharp edge that might encourage splits or encourage stones to get wedged in there.
It helps maintain the overall hoof health, really, doesn't it?
It allows him to kind of maintain his own feet as well. So all I'll do is just, you see, there's not really much work in these feet at all. That heel will just come down, level this heel up to marry that.
And what you're doing is you're just basically filing it, aren't you?
Yeah.
Rough filing and then smooth filing.
This is just a big nail file, basically, with one rough side, which I use if I had a horse that had really long feet, or an amount of foot that needs to come off. This would get a good amount of it off fairly efficiently. Then the smooth side just gives it a nice finish. And if you've got, like your really small, like a mill, say, to come off of a foot, you might use your smooth side just because it's a bit easier to work with. The rough side, be inclined to take a bit too much off. But literally, that's all that he's doing at the bottom of his feet. He's got a little bit of a frog flap there, which I'll take off. So
what Rob is now doing doesn't actually hurt Oscar at all. It's completely, that part of his foot is dead, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's totally devoid of nerve endings. So a way of describing it would be like a hard sort of shell, really, encasing sensitive structures inside. So the hoof wall, the sole, the frog. Although he might be sore on his feet, that's through removing too much, so he feels pressure on the insides of his, the sensitive structures within. So yeah, that's literally what I need to do at the bottom of that foot. I'll pull it forward on my foot stand, round the bottom edge off, put a bevel on it just to stop it cracking and chipping, and that's literally as in depth.
Quite an easy one.
He's a nice one to begin with.
So if we come around the front, we can actually see it from a slightly different angle then.
So,
and obviously, as you can see, Oscar is quite relaxed, really.
Just gonna give me a stubble rash.
Giving you a stubble rash. And Oscar, don't kiss.
So I just scrape a bit of the
Good man.
bit of the mud off, but you can just see the sharp edges sort of like starting to form on the edge of the hoof wall. So I like take my rough side of my rasp and go down sort of 45 degrees. Put a bit of a bevel on there, and you'd be surprised the difference that you'll see in sort of the what you might see as being like a long foot or a short foot.
So what you can also see is Oscar is actually just playing with Rob's hat.
Yep.
Ever the character, Oscar.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. That's.
He's quite gummy. He doesn't have very many teeth left. Bless him. Do you, Oscar? Doesn't seem to worry him at all, though, which is good.
But really, I'm just trying to keep as much strength inside the hoof capsule without removing too much foot, but keeping it nice and contained at the same time. Because obviously Oscar weighs, I don't know when the last time you weighed him, but how much do you reckon he weighs?
He's about 700 kilos now, 750, something like that.
So each foot is carrying quite an amount of weight, so you want to keep as much strength inside that as possible. He's a big chap, and he needs them to keep him comfortable. Right, I'll start on the back one.
So what we might see now is, because Oscar's obviously had his injury and he's been running around a lot because of being chased, really, we might see that Oscar's actually quite stiff on his back end. Boris, come away. Come away. and that will actually be reflected when Rob actually picks his feet up. So Rob might have to adjust Oscar or adjust himself accordingly, really. So I'm a bit of a bad owner. I didn't wipe the dirt off before Rob's here.
£20 on the bill.
So normally I would wipe it off, get a bit of straw, old hay, and just wipe it off. So Rob's actually got a clean foot to work with. But we just didn't really have time.
No. But he is a little bit stiff, but actually, because he's quite like a gentleman of a horse, he's not making it too difficult. So we're kind of a bit of a happy medium. But
yeah,
because there's no foot to come off of the bottom, really.
Good boy.
Other than just these little frog flaps here. Yeah, so he's just relaxing a bit now. So the frog's worn nice and flat with the hoof wall as well, and really this one will just be a case of pulling the foot forward and just putting a bevel on it. I won't touch anything on the bottom, because I'll just be removing foot unnecessarily.
So you can see Oscar's not quite put his foot down yet. He's still a little bit stiff, so he's just adjusting himself with it, really. But like Rob said, he's a gentleman of the horse, but that's because Rob knows him. He knows that actually what his behaviour is like. So Rob has that added knowledge.
So although the foot stand looks quite high, it's actually quite a comfortable position for him to be in, because he's not really having to sort of flex through his fetlock joint, which is obviously a bit swollen up where he's stiffened up and probably not moved around as much as he normally would.
So Rob, we were talking a little bit ago about the ponies and how they've actually got laminitis, and that's why they're in off the grass at the moment.
Yes.
Can you just explain to our viewers what laminitis is really and how you manage it in terms of your job?
So laminitis is probably one of the most common causes of chronic foot lameness in the British Isles, and in layman's terms, it's literally inflammation of the laminae inside the hoof capsule. And the laminae are there. You could probably describe them a bit like Velcro. So you have a set of laminae which are attached to the sort of like the wall surface of the pedal bone, and then you have another set which are attached to the inner surface of the hoof wall, and they kind of interdigitate like this.
So locked together.
There's like there's two sets, primary and secondary, like little leaves. And laminitis is a breakdown of that bond, so you get like a stretching of that. And obviously, because horses don't naturally bear weight directly through their bone column, the bone column is suspended inside the hoof capsule. When you get a breakdown in that bond, you tend to get rotation or sinking of the pedal bone inside the hoof capsule, which causes quite a bit of pain. In some cases, it's quite severe. In some cases, it's less severe, depending on how quickly you've caught it. Obviously, these two have been caught pretty quickly, so they're being managed. That's as
much as we can do, really, isn't it?
So there's so many different causes of laminitis. It's so it's still like it's a massively explored topic, but there's still so much more I think that needs, or there is, being found out about it. But one of the main causes, other than like hormonal imbalances and sort of like diabetes, is obesity that causes it. These two, they're not overweight, really. I mean, their coat is about 2 inches thick, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, but these two, especially this one, you'd be looking at more of like a metabolic issue. So it's like his ability to be able to absorb and digest what he eats.
And he
so
actually
like
does have Cushing's, which
like
is
Cushing's. So that's a hormone imbalance. The pituitary gland on the back of the brain becomes overactive, and medication is the best way of managing that, and diet. So it's very common in the British Isles, laminitis. It's not a nice thing for horses to experience, because it is a whole body sort of disease.
I explain it as to our groups as that the horses, they feel like they've got a headache in their feet or
Yeah.
like a migraine in the feet because their feet are so tender, aren't they? And
Yeah.
obviously that's not just the feet, it's right the way up through. And the stance is usually quite
Yes.
kind of on the back legs, isn't it?
So they tend
Rather than
to,
standing.
because you tend to get rotational sinking, the sort of toe portion of the pedal bone tends to sink and becomes closer to the ground. So there they keep weight off of their toes, pushing it back on their heels. There tends to be a bit of like a nutritional imbalance sort of supplied to the hoof capsule as well. So you end up with like a lifting of the toe. So you get that like that sort of
Just
slippered
tip back.
effect, and then
Yeah.
you get a lot of heel growth because blood supply and nutrients is kind of shunted to the back portion of the foot. It's like, without getting too complicated, there are small little connecting veins which
And it
supply
pushes it
nutrients to the front portion of the foot. They become shut down, so
Okay.
the nutrients doesn't get there, and it all just stays in the back portion of the
So
foot,
in effect, the horses have like
Yeah.
high heels, don't they?
which is kind of even worse in some respect. If you've got a pedal bone which is rotating downwards and forwards, and you've got excessive heel growth, it's almost like tipping it that
Tipping
way.
them over the other way.
So when they're comfortable enough, trimming is then the next
Next
method
best
of
thing.
treatment, and it's just about realigning the bone column inside the hoof capsule, which normally results in getting the heels to a good sort of stable level height, and then removing any leverage off the front of the foot, which is created by that slippered toe. In both of these two instances, that's exactly how you can just see from the ground they look a bit stilted on the heels,
Yeah.
and the toes have kind of just rolled
Rolled.
a bit away from them.
Yeah.
So that all needs to be
Especially little
realigned.
Tilly.
Pardon?
Especially this little one.
Yeah, go and have a look.
But obviously, well, we don't need to have a look right
Do you-
now. If you want
no?
to carry on, we'll finish Oscar. We'll come back and
You sure?
yeah, we can film you doing some more.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do, I think we're kind of nearly out of time. We're going to let Rob continue with Oscar, and we're going to go for a part 2. So this is going to be a 2-parter with Rob the Farrier, because there's so much information and so much that we can show you and have kind of Rob as an expert
That's
brain,
right.
if you like. So
I'm
what we're going to do is we're going to
used
come
to
back
this
to the
now.
studio and we're going to keep recording here, but we won't show you obviously today. We'll show you next week. So you can rejoin us again next week for the second part of Chaos Farm and the Farrier. So see you next week.